Hey everybody, it's Nick for today's tutorial. We're going to be looking at how to cut a section of a Rhino model to produce a vector drawing, in this case an Autocad drawing. And we've kind of talked about this before in other labs. You can certainly do drawings in Illustrator, but it's helpful to work in AutoCAD so you have that consistency that you get from your plot style tables. It just makes it easier to coordinate all your drawings. It makes it easier to make edits to things, keep things consistent. As you're working in a firm or you're working in a group, those systems and workflows are going to be useful. If you're doing things in Illustrator, it might be easier to make things look better, but at the same time, it's harder to make changes and it's harder to keep things consistent. So this will work for Illustrator. It'll work for anything basically that takes lines. But the workflow we're going to be doing is basically from Rhino to Illustrator. Sorry, from Rhino to AutoCAD, and then we're going to plot these as PDFs. So these are going to join the other drawings that you already made this week, and the kind of stuff that we did in some of the earlier labs. So I gave you this model of the pavilion that I made, which is similar to the one that I showed you in the demo of that describes how a section drawing works, and it's the one, and it also corresponds to the other drawings that you made earlier in the week. So here's the pavilion model, and you can see some of the things like there's actually glass, in this opening. There's some glazing that's inside of the clear story. Little strip of glazing. It's all the way through, here. I'm in rendered view, so you can see the shadows. You can see the transparency through the glass. That's just a simple like material that I made in Rhino. We'll talk about that later, like how to actually do that. And the like colors roughly correspond to the materials. I didn't do anything kind of strange with that. If you go to shaded view, you'll just see it as flat, just flat color and stuff. And the model's organized, and that's really important too, so that you can turn things off and on, and it'll come into handy later when we're actually making our drawing because it'll allow us to kind of separate things out onto layers more easily when we go into make 2D. So anyway, good habit to get into, as we talked about whenever we've worked in these programs, to have kind of a layer hierarchy. Just makes things easier. This is not a great one, but at least it's there. It's just certainly better than having it all be gray and all be on the same layer. Okay, so let's talk about the workflow. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make a section drawing, and I've actually got videos on my channel that talk about different ways to cut sections using the split tool, using trims, using booleans, like that kind of stuff. That will work, but remember that those tools aren't very reliable. Something that I found that does work, that I've been working with more recently, is using the clipping plane. And it's pretty easy to do this. I'm going to take you through this workflow. I'm going to start in the front view. So just type in front, and then I'm going to activate the clipping plane tool, just clipping plane. And it says first corner rectangle, etc. You're just going to draw like a rectangle. Okay. And the clipping plane is infinite, so you just have to kind of establish like where it is. You can see already it's already created this clipping plane, view, where now we're inside the model. And if I go to my four views and go to perspective view, you can see that that plane was drawn from the front view, basically at the zero, x-axis. So that's why it's cut exactly halfway through. You can see the clipping plane object here, right? And it looks like a T. So this is the plane, and this arrow that comes out from it is the viewing. Uh, that's sort of like the direction. So just like in your section drawings, where you have those kind of arrows that kind of are sort of like an indication of the viewing plane. You might call it the viewing direction, viewing angle, whatever. This also has that. That's what that line is. You can change that. Like if this is like selected, you can go in, and when you have the object selected, you go to properties, and it'll say clipping plane. Make sure that that's selected, and then you go to the third box here. It says clipping plane. Now you have the clipping plane options. You can flip. You can flip the direction of it. You can also decide which views are actually clipped. And so, for example, if I click on the perspective view, now you can see the model's been like clipped, and you can really see the difference when I actually choose to flip the direction. Okay. And so you can, as long as, so this is a bug, or well, no, it'll, something that can get you is if you haven't got these boxes like checked. So just be sure that you select your plane, and that whatever plane you're working in when you do your drawing, or when you're looking at something, that box is checked. I've had people say like, oh, the plane's not working or something like that. Make sure that these are checked. Okay. Make sure that the right direction is checked. So the way that this workflow, would work really easily would be something like I would take this kind of front view, and just make sure that the direction's there, that I'm looking for, and I could actually pull that section through. You can see my top view, right? So where am I going to cut this thing? Where is that cut, coming from? I can produce all kinds of different, drawings at the same time just by pulling it, to where I want to. And it just depends on like what you're trying to show. This is the drawing that we had originally, in the set. You can see it shows a clear story in the window and the partition. You might say, well, I want to actually do maybe a study of this kind of opening or something. Kind of pull it. Yeah, be really careful. And of course, you can snap to things too. If you have something like you could draw a midpoint here, and then you could snap this plane to it. I'm just doing it by kind of an eyeball. Anyway, just to have the indication of it. The other thing that I want to talk about too, maybe I'll just make this bigger. Should have done that in the first place. Is that you got to be careful with these things because like as you're pulling through some of these things, it's pretty accurate, but especially as you get into some objects that as it creates like an intersection, you might end up with some things that are kind of broken or it's not as exact as drawing it yourself when you made it as an orthographic projection. So sometimes you might have to fix a few things. It's not perfect, but it'll at least give you a start. And for some things, it's way easier than just trying to draw it yourself. It's way easier to just take it out of the Rhino model, especially as you get more curvy shapes and things get more complicated. So this is a great method, and truth be told, this is how most people draw a lot of their construction drawings now is through, making a 3D model and then using some kind of tool like in Rhino or like in Revit to do the production drawings. Okay, but orthographic projection is very important to understand because otherwise it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. And as I've kind of said, orthographic projection always works. Like if you've got the other drawings in the set, you've got the information, you can construct the drawing. Sometimes this stuff gets buggy or doesn't work the way you want it to, so you have to have something to fall back on. So that's, like at that point, you've got like a basic section. You can go ahead and you can select everything, and then you can say like make 2D. Well, I wouldn't. I would deselect the clipping plane. So I should select everything and then do a control click on the plane, and then just do make 2D. Settings in make 2D that I think like work are just through the view setting. Make sure that the clipping plane intersections are like chosen because that's going to give you the actual poche, the stuff that's cut on a layer. Make sure to group output. Yeah, I think this does like I don't do hidden lines and stuff like that. Maintain source layers. Yeah, so all that. So go ahead and output it, and then that's going to show up, as you would expect in the top view. Now, one thing to watch out for, so you can see that that matches. Just make sure that coordinates. One thing you got to watch out for with this is to make sure that like when you've got the clipping plane that you're not accidentally clipping the lines that you drew, because that's just another bug. You can say, well, I did make 2D and it didn't work. Well, make sure that you don't accidentally have some things saved or whatever. Like for example, like let's say my top view. See now it doesn't look like I have my lines anymore. Okay, so just be really careful that that's not what's happening. And then you can select your objects. And remember, it usually outputs to top view. So you can select them and then go to File, Export Selected. You can save it as a DWG. That's kind of the basic workflow. Okay. So if you have Make 2D and you have layers, then you've got all these things on different layers. You have like a clipping plane intersection layer, which is like really handy because again, that's your poche. That's what got cut, and it's all organized, according to that layer. So that's pretty nice to have. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of all this though for now because I want to do something a little bit. So that's the basic workflow, and this will work. If you've got, let me go ahead and go to clipping plane again. Um, you can take the clipping plane, you can rotate it just like anything else. I can just say rotate, and I get the center. You could say I don't know, 0, 0, wherever it is, or you could snap to the midpoint, something like that. And then you could say like, okay, make it 90 degrees. Did I rotate it right? Let's see here. messed it up. Okay. Let's go to the, make sure I'm in the top view here. Let's see, rotate. Let's see here. I think that's right. Maybe just making sure that I'm doing this right. You can also just snap to stuff. So I can do, I can hold down Shift, and then I can, I can snap it in different directions. And so now I've got the clipping plane rotated. So now it's a section, and I'm in the wrong view. Let's go to right view or something. So now it's a section going the other way. And you could change this, depending on which view you drew the clipping plane in first. Certainly. So there's how to get some different sections like we had, before. Just make sure again that your perspective is sorry that the view is checked, as the output. Um, that'll certainly work. You can also rotate it, 90 degrees to make it like a plan, cut. So I can do this. Just kind of hopefully this will work here. Make it like this. And then if I'm looking at this thing in a top view and I've got it selected, let's see here, I flip it. Yeah, so now it's actually getting me like plans. I can kind of do a mullion plan if I want to. I can cut through the door. So that's pretty cool. You can get a lot of stuff out of that. So to really make any kind of plan or any section you want. Last, you can also do, angles of things. So you can take this plane and you rotate it, and again, you can just kind of eyeball it. And if you've got your snaps turned on, you can change your ortho snaps to 45 degrees or something if you want to. Make it 45. Then you can actually, if you hold down Shift, you can snap. So now I've got a 45-degree angle. And if the gumball is not oriented to it, this is called the gumball, the kind of thing that lets you move things around, you can click on this little circle, and then you have to just go to align to object. Okay, otherwise it's going to be aligned to the plane. So click on that circle, go to align to object, and now you can actually pull. And I'm going to look at this in perspective so you guys can kind of see this, but yeah, there you go. That's fun. So you can actually pull this thing through and get some really funky, all kinds of sections here. Depends on what you want to show. Like what's the kind of relationship that you want to show? What's the view? Okay, and this is a little trickier in terms of how you actually can do Make 2D with it. The other ones are pretty straightforward because you're just going to export from the plan. If you've got an angled one, and remember, you don't have to do 45 degrees. You can do any arbitrary kind of angle you want, but like usually 45 works pretty well. You click on, so you go to the view you're in, go to the C-plane tab, and I do a 3-point C-plane. I've got a lot of things checked. I think I just need endpoint snaps checked. So I click on the corner first. So it's lower left-hand corner for the origin. And then I want to go to the lower right-hand corner so that's going to establish the x-axis. And then I go to the upper corner for the z-axis. Okay, you can see that coordinate plane here. So that's my plane. Now, if I go in and I go to set view plan, that actually gives me the C-plane view that I just generated. Okay, so again, you make your plane, go to the C-planes, do a 3-point, make a C-plane, which is a coordinate plane with 3 points, 1, 2, 3, and then change your view to plan view. Okay. And if it helps, you can name your view something just to keep it kind of stable for now. But you can see how you get some interesting, kinds of curvature here. This would be really hard to like orthographically project, I would say. Yeah. Okay. So then to go ahead and do Make 2D, so I would select everything, deselect the plane, which I just use like the control key. I'm gonna go ahead and say Make 2D using the view projection. Maintain source layers, clipping planes, it's all fine. So go OK. Remember that everything shows up in top view. Make sure that you didn't accidentally, take anything, that you don't accidentally have the clipping plane turned on. Okay, you can go ahead and delete this outer thing. You can select these just with your mouse, or you can go into layer and you can go to Make 2D and you can say select objects, and that'll select everything. Sorry, select sublayer, and that'll select everything as well. Okay, then go to File, Export Selected, and I'm just going to call it, let's see, section lines from Rhino, something like that. Something so you know what it is. AutoCAD drawing, AutoCAD 12, save it. Okay. Go ahead and go ahead to AutoCAD. We're going to open up AutoCAD and open that file up and see what we got. Now the scale, if you modeled it correctly, right, if everything is 1-to-1, then the scale should just pop right in. It should not be any sort of a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and say section lines in Rhino. Yeah, fine. Okay, now where are my lines? Well, they're probably somewhere off in space. Let's just do Z for zoom, all, ALL. There we go. Okay. And you can see where your layers are here. And I probably did a bad job because all my layers are kind of, grays and beige and, all that stuff. But better than nothing. Let's see here. Just to like show you, if I turn everything off here. Oops. That's fine. Whatever. Start to turn things off. This visible clipping, I believe, is actually what's actually cut. So you can see the door lintel, you can see the glazing, you can see the kind of mullions, you can see the curved wall, you can see the piece of glass in the wall. I made the glass as a single line. It could be double pane, could be whatever. Also in my model here, the glass is on the outside of the mullions. That's just a weird detail that I did. But that's good. That represents all that stuff that was cut in a really good way. I'm gonna go ahead and turn these all back on. Okay. So here's what I recommend you do. So if everything's in there, it should be to scale. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Go ahead, and I would say I would go ahead and open up your files that you had. So if you had something you drew last time, so for example, these like section drawings. This is what it actually ends up kind of looking like in the end. I'm gonna go ahead and like take this out for now. I'm gonna take all these out actually. But you can take your drawings, and I've shown you how to do this. Where you go in. Let's just start with one that we had. Let's talk about our plan. You can select something, right? And I always go clipboard, copy with base point, and then I click somewhere off to the corner, and then I would place it in here, and I would say clipboard, paste, and then that way, it comes in. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that actually. So let's just pretend like these are the drawings that you had. Mine are a little bit different, but let's just go ahead and leave that for now. What you can do to kind of get things going is just go ahead and I use the non-plot layer, the blue, and I'm just going to use the ortho snap and just kind of make some kind of guidelines here, for things. You can always clean these up later, but there's kind of a ground line, and then there's kind of a container just so that you share edges of things. I think it's important to have kind of edges to align things. And I'm going to go back again and just paste that back in there. Okay, so then I'm going to select my drawing. I'm going to say move. And for now, another thing you could do too is take the midpoint of this. Oh, and I didn't. Let's just draw a line here. You could trim that too if you want to. So I'm just going to draw a quick line there. I'm going to select everything. I'm going to go move. I'm going to take the bottom edge of this thing at the midpoint and snap it to this midpoint here. Oops, messed that up. Let's go back. I didn't do that right. Okay. Yep. Okay. I snap to the ground. I'm gonna do that. And snap to the building. Okay, and then I'm gonna draw a little midpoint line here, and I'm gonna move this over and snap it here. I'm doing this because I want them to be consistent in terms of the weights we use, in terms of the kinds of tones and things. So I'm just gonna put them all on one thing, and then we're gonna make two different layouts. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this actually too. Let's make sure this is right. I'm kind of skipping around here. Yeah, so that's the layout. We're gonna make another layout with these two drawings. It's the same as this layout. So that's why it's good to keep these things kind of aligned with each other, keep them in the same kind of spacing, just to make things a little bit easier. So same thing here. Kind of did that backwards. I'm gonna move that there, and I could certainly just go ahead and trim, these things just fine. Okay, that gives me um, just a place to put that. These blues won't print, but I'm just gonna I'm gonna get them cleaned up anyway. Okay, so then I've got my section lines here. Same deal. I'm gonna go ahead for now and just get rid of that ground that came with it. I'm gonna go ahead and draw just a simple line. I don't have my other lines here. Okay, so select everything. And actually, since I know where I'm going with it, I'm gonna go ahead and say clipboard, copy with base point, and I'm gonna copy that midpoint. That's my copy point. And then I'm gonna go back to my sections and paste it right to that midpoint. Okay. So then I've got that. Okay. And then just real quick, so like I kind of offset these I like 4 feet from the thing. So I just basically take a line from the edge of the wall and just say offset. And this is depending on your layout or whatever, but just so you've got enough ground, but not too much ground. I just offset that 4 feet, and then that's where I trim the ground. So in contrast to what I did earlier, where I had it as one ground line, I'm actually going to cut this so that we understand that these are two views of the same building and not two buildings that are on one ground. So to duplicate that idea here, I'm going to go ahead and just gonna kind of do this easily here. So that's 4 feet off. So I'm going to go ahead and say move. I'm going to select this. I'm going to take this corner, and then I'm going to go ahead and snap that here. And the same thing here. I'm going to move this line, and I'm going to start in this corner, and then that's going to give me a 4-foot thing there. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to my ground line, layer 6, and then just draw a ground line there. Okay, and what that gives me is that these are basically on center with each other. These are on center with each other. There's a consistent horizontal line where these are vertically aligned. Okay, and we have the same distance of ground on all the drawings. So there's already like a consistency and like a balance, for all these things. Okay, and that's a good place to start just to make sure that we've got all that stuff laid out. All right, so we got those in there. And then, the most important, thing is going to be to basically establish that poche, that kind of cut. So, we got these layers that come from that come from Rhino. So it's really easy to go ahead and just start turning off, some of those elements, so that we can just focus on that clipping line. Yeah, always wants to do that. Let's see here. So, right away, the style, that we have, is that we got a purple outline, and then we kind of put some like poche in there, and so that's pretty easy to kind of work on. Before I do that, though, what I want to do is I'm actually using green for the glazing, because like as you can see from the Rhino model, that gets cut. That piece of glass is cut. It's not completely open to the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and select it and just put that on the green layer. Okay. And then so that kind of takes it away. And then just to make things really easy for the next part, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the green so that I can make all these other lines purple. Okay. And then we've got, now we can see the things that are cut, and the things that aren't. I'm going to go ahead and hide the ground line real quick because I do want to finish off that purple right now, and that'll matter a little bit more later. But I want you to see that kind of hierarchy that's starting to happen. Okay, now we can go ahead and start maybe turning on, some of these other, kinds of elements just to sort of see what we've got. But the most important thing in the space, right, is to represent the stuff that gets cut. Now, did I delete that ground? I deleted the ground. That's not smart. Hold up. There we go. Okay. I don't know what happened there. This is on layer 6. Yeah, okay. Just making sure. Now we got to go back through these again. Okay. Oop. Oh, because it's in front of it. Aha. That's why. My mistake. Yeah, I gotta be careful of those black lines that run up through the front of those things. Okay, so you can see that, like, and it's good to have the Rhino model, handy too, so you can actually tell like what's happening. So you can say, okay, this is cut, but you can see this actually drops back. Like that's actually, what we're seeing when we look at these things. So this is still, still in play, but it is actually dropping, back. The other thing is this kind of curve here. Sometimes you do lose these things. Like Make 2D doesn't quite finish it off yet. So it's good to kind of have this stuff so you can be honest about it. You can also see that we've actually cut through here, so we're reading the inside of the wall when we got this line. That's not a real thing. Like that's actually not really that's not helping like anybody. So I would go ahead right away and get rid of this line. The other thing you can do, too, with some of these things, if it helps, is again select everything and then shift click to deselect those vertical lines because I don't know if you've noticed, but like a lot of times those lines that are curves from Rhino are made up of multiple lines. So if you want to get at this without selecting it multiple times, just select everything, deselect the easy vertical ones, and then you can just get rid of it. And that kind of stuff helps quite a bit. Sometimes it's a little harder to. Yeah, that's not too bad. Anyway, whatever works, but I think that's a way to save yourself some time. See, and then you can see the glass here, right? Which is actually, something that we. Oh, I'm in the wrong drawing. Ah, my bad. Okay. Well, same diff. I can go ahead. Actually, it's easier now. I can turn these off. Anyway, I should just go ahead and Go ahead and hide this drawing here. It's no good. Okay, now we've got that. And you can see how here we do have this kind of piece of this, but it didn't finish itself. So what I think I want to do actually is, oh, this is going to work too well. I'm going to be kind of hacky here. See how it comes in as like a million little tiny lines. I'm going to go ahead and draw this line here. And I'm going to select all this. Ooh, oh man, it gets really small. Okay, close enough. And I'm just going to copy this line from here over to here. And that will finish off the kind of offset and then probably just go ahead and trim. Remember, like, this is kind of a hack. It's not actually, it is cutting it and we are seeing, the effect of it in Make 2D, but it's kind of incomplete. And so that's why we have to do things like this. Like we actually have to finish kind of drawing, some of these things sometimes. So that's a way to get around that. The other, let's see here. Let's pay attention to what's happening in the drawing. So there's the back wall, there's the cut, glazing, yeah, wall. Okay, so you just kind of have to kind of think about the way that our other. I'm gonna close this one too, so I don't keep working on that. Look at the way that our other drawings are working, and I've made some adjustments to these that I will talk about in a second here. I don't know why it doesn't want to do that. Turn this one on. Okay, so I've got my glazing is green, my outer things, and then my tone poche is green. I've done stuff where I've actually made the back walls drop to a green, and I've made the mullions actually drop to a gray because I noticed that the hierarchy wasn't as developed as I'd hoped. And so what I'm going to do in this case is, so these are walls. I'm going to go ahead and drop these down to a green. And the partition, back wall, and these will be gray. I'm going to drop this to a green. And I'm going to drop these to a green also. Let's just verify like what's in here. So we've got this edge, back wall, and this is a doorway with a door in it back here. Okay, let's skip ahead there. Okay, so that's what this is back here. So this is an opening in that wall, and what I have actually done is I've actually made those into. In that case, I made it into a red. We'll see. Okay, let's go ahead and turn this off again. I don't need the greens anymore. Okay, this is gonna shape up really quickly. Okay, so this is gonna be, the door is gonna be red because it's way back there. I'm gonna go ahead and make, I'm not worried about this other line here. I'm gonna go ahead and make all of these gray. I believe I did those gray one. Make all these gray one. And then I made these gonna be 2. Okay. I can go and I can turn those grays off now. Okay. And let's see here. Yeah, and the rest of it, and I can turn off the reds here too. Now these are all gonna be green. Okay. Turn these back on. Oh, lost something there. You'll probably have a lot of overlapping stuff, a lot of just kind of trash, because these things are on multiple layers and they might, depending on the way the algorithm calculates them, they're going to overlap each other. So you just kind of have to watch out for that. Okay. Okay. Did I lose? Yeah, so this is cut. This is going further back. So that might be a place where I change things because this is in back, this is in front. So let me, right, you see that? So this is actually towards us, kind of the way that this wall is cut. So I might, depending on the way I want to represent things, I might actually go in and I might decide, I don't think that these are quite green, like bright green, but I might go in and I might make these dark green, and I might actually have to go in and make these bright green, just to have the hierarchy. This is a little bit different section than some of the other ones are. So you can't quite be the same, but you're at least in the same kind of family. Um, and to that, I'm gonna see what this looks like here. Go ahead and make that wall. So the glass, and then this drops, and then this goes out. Okay, it's there. And then another thing too, I'm gonna go ahead and clean. This is another one of those remnants that got stuck, here, where we could see inside of the thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that too. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so cut. This is, yeah. So this is in front. And then in a similar way, I'm going to go ahead and make this outer edge green, like bright green 3. Yeah, so even just look at the way that reads now. And I guess if I'm going to complete the effect, that's what it. So I've got the cut, I've got the kind of planes, and then everything gets back from there. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that everything that's on that 5 layer is dominant, because a lot of times the grays will read in front. So I'm going to go ahead and select all these. Actually, I'm going to turn off the ground too, just to make sure I got these. Select all these, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say draw order, bring to front. And that way they'll always read in the front. And then I'm going to finish off that piece here that I had. Okay. Make sure you save as you go, so you don't accidentally lose, progress on this thing. But that's not a bad setup for this. Let's make sure that, yeah, let's see, this is dropping back, so I'm gonna make that gray. And that's a little craft issue there, right, too. Sometimes, again, don't trust Rhino. You've got to go in and actually make sure these things are clean. Okay, and this, edge of it doesn't really matter. We're gonna poche it anyway, so I mean, I guess it could. If you're gonna do the thing we showed in class where you've got some lighter material and then surrounded by like a black line. But that's not too bad. Remember to go back to your plans and like make sure that things are consistent. And so like in this case, I actually might go in and I might take these door swings down to something actually gray. I keep this outer edge like the way that it was. Um, and yeah, that might be it. Also, I might make this glass into maybe that kind of line. Oh, and I forgot to draw this piece of glazing in here too. I've seen some stuff in class. If you want to, you could probably go ahead and because of the way it's cut, you could go ahead and add the rest of the wall that's under. But just make sure that the glass reads as cut. This does not. This goes all the way to the ground. Okay. The other thing that I had that I'd probably change is that this door, is actually rotated. And so an easy way to fix that is just to go rotate, and you just make sure that you've got the center snaps turned on. You're going to go ahead and rotate from that center point, and if you've got your angle snaps on, you should be able to track that to a 45 degree. Let's see here. Yeah, change it to 45. Okay. And then hold shift. Oops. Come on. Yeah, there you go. Now to redraw these, let's go ahead and blow those away. Let's go to the gray layer again. I like arcs are kind of hard to work with. I would do center, start, end. So center, start, end. So midpoints, right? So center, start, end. And if it's not right, you can I think use control. If it's not like, I'll just do the opposite of that. Okay, try it again. Let's see, center, start, end. Center, start, end. Yeah, AutoCAD likes to draw things counterclockwise. So you can get that back in. But that should get us pretty close to the other drawing. I am going to quick kind of save a copy of this. Okay, good hygiene. And then last, I'm going to go ahead go onto that 3-layer, and I'm going to hatch these things with a solid poche. Solid. I'm going to go ahead and just fill these in here. And I'm using green. I thought you were solid. Yeah, solid. There we go. I'm doing mine as solid. So the purples. Oops. See, if you've got some problems, we might need to talk about how to fill that in better. There we go. That's not too bad. Oop. Got an island here I don't need. Let's go ahead and remove that one. Oh, I see. Okay. So this might not be. Sometimes your hatches aren't. That's not too bad. Okay. Depends on where you click and what your view is. What happened here? Lost all my purples. Let's make sure that I didn't. Oops. Okay, clear there. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't mess anything up. Okay, so I'm on layer 3. Let's just go ahead and hatch it again. So solid hatch. And I'm going to fill these in a bit more carefully than last time. Maybe it was okay. Okay, and then just say close. Okay. Don't hatch too much at once because otherwise you can't make any. Because when you do a hatch, it's all one thing. If you hatch all these and then you realize that you've got one that you don't want, you've got to redo all the hatches, and that's no fun. Okay, let's go ahead and repeat the hatch command, and then go ahead and finish off the plans with this. That should be really easy. Okay, done. Okay, so that is a pretty good set. I changed this from the other drawings that I did because I felt like there wasn't enough contrast between the elements. I really want there to be a big jump from the poche to the back wall, or at least from the poche to the mid ground to the back. And in the drawings I did earlier, that I showed you in the first video, I didn't feel like it like hopped quite enough. We talked about this a lot in class. So I really should have been checking this more in the print preview, but I wanted to kind of speed things along since it's already kind of taken a long time. But let's go ahead and do a layout for the other two drawings. So we got the first layout, which is the one that you did earlier. So you can see that there's these two drawings, and they're pretty balanced on this page. It's 11 by 17. It's if you like click the box, it's 1/4 scale. That's all the things we want. Okay. What I'm going to do to make this a little bit easier is I'm going to go ahead and select this, and I'm going to copy it. So I'm selecting the layout, and I'm copying it. I'm just going to move it over to the right, and it's going to be the same thing. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the non-plot layer, and I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to snap to a line on the ground from the drawing and just bring it across here. And then I'm going to double click this, and I'm going to basically, let's see here. Probably should have done this a little bit differently here. Hang on. Double click out. Delete this. I'm going to draw a line on the edge of this thing here. So I'm just snapping to the drawing that's inside the layout. Okay. And I just like stretched it there. Okay, so I've got these two lines. And now I'm going to go ahead and copy this over. Okay, and then just copy it over with the ortho. There we go. So now I've got the layout. I've got the same ground. I've got the edge. I can delete, this. I'm going to go ahead and I double clicked in here. I'm going to pan. Oops, changed my layout. Let's go to 1/4 scale. I'm going to pan over. I'm going to say move, and I'm going to double click here. See if this works. Nope. Okay. I'm going to select these objects, and I'm going to move them. Oh, wait a minute. It's all kind of messed up. Let's see here. Okay. I want to align these with the drawing. Okay. So that gives us a sense of how to get those things aligned with each other. The other thing that I noticed though is that in this drawing I don't have enough room for the other drawing. So what I am going to do is actually I'm going to kind of move this over a bit. And I can, if I have orthos, turned on, and I hold shift, I can just pan this. I can pan this over, and it'll stay locked. And so what you can do is you can kind of move it so that you've got enough space around the drawings. I did kind of break this, but at least it's on the same kind of ground plane, and these are aligned with each other. Let's turn this off for now. Everything is on the same ground line, so I'm not too worried about it. So I'm gonna double click out, click on this, delete it. Still kind of bothered by this spacing, so I'm going to double click into my thing again, and I am going to move it over by some amount, and maybe try to center that. I'm just going to eyeball it for now, but try to center that. Select all these over here, and if I really want to be precise, I would draw a line, offset it, whatever. But I can, and I just noticed I lost a crumb here, so I'm just going to move this over. Be really careful, moving drawings and stuff in the layout. So those are part of a set now. They have very similar like spacing. They're aligned, more or less. We can kind of like mess with it a little bit more later. But that gives us a pretty consistent set. Now these are two different layouts. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this layout. Just going to say copy, and I'll say create a copy of 11 by 17, and it's going to be 11 by 17 2 and 11 by 17 1. They're the same, so nothing's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this in one layout. Okay, and then in this other layout, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a little angle here, just an L. And then I'm going to delete this layout, and I'm going to select this layout, and I'm going to move it over into that pocket. Okay, and then I can, if I wanted to, I could delete those extra lines. Those blue ones don't print anyway. So now I've got two layouts, two pages, okay? And then I can go ahead and plot these and see, what I've got. So I'm in the, I've got the plot style table assigned. I've got the landscape orientation. I'm in Autocad, PDF, 11 by 17. Yeah, should be 17 by 11. Yeah, full bleed. Okay, so apply to layout, preview. Okay. Which one? Didn't plot the right one. Yeah, I did. Okay, yeah, that's it. Sorry. So that's what it looks like. Um, you can see this is what happens when you don't have. I need to go in and make sure that this layer is on top of that layer. So I need to change the draw order because I can see these things are on top. One thing I need to talk about too, we'll look at this later, but basically, like, you can look at this and get a kind of a sense of the hierarchy, but until you actually look at it as a PDF and you look at it plotted at 100% scale, you're actually not going to be able to read this correctly. So kind of give yourself a break right now on it, but that gives you a sense of what you're looking at. Let's let's go ahead and plot it. I'll just go ahead and throw it on here. Let's close this and go 100%. And see that, so that's what we're looking at. You can see that there's a clear kind of glazing line. This steps down. You can see these grays, that are a lot more faint. But there's a real contrast. There's a real serious contrast, in comparison to the last one that I showed you. I actually might go ahead and make this wall kind of stand out a little bit more than this back wall. Let's go in. Let's go back to the drawing quick. Just take a look at that stuff. So yeah, so these are green. Yeah, and I guess if I really wanted to, I guess I could pull these back down to maybe red. It's kind of too subtle of a difference, but at least this is a little bit stronger because this wall is actually coming at us. And I'll go ahead and step down this wall a little bit. Oh, and then the draw order. So I'll just take everything that's not gray and just grab it and just right click and say draw order front. Okay, now let's go ahead and turn these back on. Go back into that layout and plot these again and see if there's any. I'm just going to open it up in Acrobat. Let's go ahead and do that. Yes, go ahead. Okay, crunch. So you can see, hopefully, yeah, you don't get those kind of crumbs anymore, where it kind of overlaps. That gray is clean. Let's go back to 100%. Yeah, so just, I don't know, it's maybe not that much of a variation, but so this is a little heavier. This is a little bit lighter. A little bit heavier. Yeah, so, but anyway, the main thing is that there's enough contrast. I don't want this to read as too solid. I do want the glazing to read where it's cut. I want these to stand out where this is cut. Ground line's nice and solid. So that's not too bad. Okay, let's go back to the other drawing, which is actually kind of more important. Let's go to this layout. Let's go ahead and plot. Let's do the same thing first because I know this is going to be a problem. Let's go ahead and turn off everything gray. And we'll go ahead and select all these. And then we'll change the draw order to front. And then we'll go ahead back to this layout. And you could probably name these something like better. Let's say 11 by 17 Rhino. If I can spell Rhino. Oops. Let's fix that. Rhino. Okay. And then it's gonna yeah. Now it makes sense. Okay, let's plot this and see what. Oh, I need to turn the layers on too. Turn those grays back on. Okay, plot. And then we'll go ahead and we'll make another, yeah, so the layout copy. Let's turn this off. Right. So another thing you could do, since this is imaginary, you might actually raise that ground up or raise this down so that this dark line kind of aligns with that. Ooh, that's looking pretty good though. Look at that. You can see how this is cut, 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 glazing, glazing, and then you get to see, yeah, this darker piece with this lighter piece. That's not too bad. Yeah, I think going down to the grays probably helps a little bit. Let's kind of zoom in here. This is the thing that's kind of counterintuitive is that this is actually in the back and this is actually further out front. There's not a lot of difference between these two. Um, but that's not too bad. That's a good start. It's definitely, because it's a strange section, it becomes a little bit difficult to read just intuitively. Um, to that end too. So let's make that quick adjustment before we go on. Um, I am going to go ahead and just bump this thing up a little bit. Just take all this stuff. And yeah, and just go ahead and, well, I want the ground to be the same though. So what I'm going to do is probably draw this. Okay, and then grab all these. Okay, and then I don't really care. I'll just go move, go from here to here, and then just delete those. Okay, and then why the heck do I keep doing that? Okay, do not want to delete the ground. There we go. That's gonna look better. Okay. Okay, so then we actually want to get that line in there because that's important. So without changing anything, you can go into um, Rhino, and I'm going to go into the top view, and I'm going into let's grab that construction, sorry, the clipping plane. I'll go ahead and turn it off for now. I'm going to delete these lines just for this drawing. And then I'm going to draw, let's see, what layer am I on? Go to default layer. I'm going to draw this line. It's just going to snap to this in plan. And then I'm going to draw the outer container of the roof. I'm going to select these two curves. I'm going to say export, and I'm just going to call these section lines in plan or something. Make them something you recognize. Okay, export, and then go ahead and back to AutoCAD again and open up that file. Yeah. No, not that one. Section lines in plan. Okay, and then just open it up. Zoom all. Select these. Clipboard. Copy with base point. Base point is going to be the corner of the roof. And I'm going to go back to my sections, and I'm going to go back to maybe a red layer, and I'm going to paste them here. And yeah, they're probably not colored yet. Let's just go ahead and turn off everything else, just to get stuff out of the way. Okay. Get that gray off there too. Come on, gray. Get out of here. Okay. Select these. They're going to go onto the red layer. This one's going to go away. And if I go back to my drawing again, now I've got my cut line that's actually for the section. And what I like to do a lot of times is just in order to get the right kind of length for the cut line, I might just go ahead and offset the roof line by like a couple feet, So just say offset here, and I would even offset it again here. And then let's just go ahead and trim. Let's go ahead and trim that line. I'm going to trim it here, and I'm going to trim it here. And get rid of that piece there. And then, like I said, kind of offset it again, maybe 1.5 feet to get the cut lines. And let's see, what direction are we facing? We're facing, let's see here. Did I get that right? Yeah, it's right across. It's right across here in front. I'm looking this way though, so I messed that up. Oops, I don't want that one. Yeah, let's go ahead and offset 1.5 foot, and we're gonna go this way. And let's go ahead and add those lines. I'm on the wrong layer. Yeah, no problem. Select these and put them on the red layer. Okay, and then when I go in my layout again, I've got that cut line, and it's actually where it's supposed to be. So that's a nice place to just to kind of locate that. All right, this is already kind of a long video, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to wrap this up. If you look at the layout, the last thing we really need to do is to add some labels to things. I want to label the section cut lines I have, and I want to label the drawings I have. Um, I'm only going to do this one that's at an angle. I would leave it to you to add in the other section cut lines. And you may need to adjust the layout a little bit once you have those section cut lines in there, or you may need to adjust the cut lines. It kind of depends. But anyway, for this layout, I'm just going to go ahead and label this one. So if you go in my AutoCAD, go to Home tab. I just like to use the M text, the multi-line text, and you click on it, and then you click a point, and you kind of drag, and then that's your text window. I think for this case, probably something, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch height text. So that's 1/4 inch in the layout. That's how tall the text is. You can always kind of edit that later. Um, and for the text, I like to do just like Arial or Helvetica is fine. Don't use the default text because it's terrible, but just something more modern. I think you can't really go wrong with Arial. It's not fantastic, but it's good enough. And all I'm gonna do is just make an A. Okay. Um, and the layer that I'm on, and this is actually a huge text box. If you want to change it, you can just click on that arrow and kind of drag back to here. The layer it's on is just the 0 layer. You can change it to another one if you want, but basically text is just filled in. So black is the way to go. You could also maybe try to make it another color or something if you wanted to, but I would just probably stick with that. And what I would do with this is to get the spacing right, I would go ahead and go to that non-plot layer, and you can just go ahead and click on this, and I would offset that by maybe 1/8 of an inch. Remember, we're in the paper space right now, not in the model, so it's actually 1/8 inch on the page. And I'm going to go ahead and offset. That's probably not even, I'll just offset it twice. It looks like maybe 1/4 of an inch is the way to go. So I'm just going to offset that twice. And then delete those lines. I'm not in the drawing, I'm in the layout, just to be clear. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and move that. Well, actually, okay, so we'll do this, make it a little bit better. I'm going to offset, so I want it to be, I'm going to make this even further, 1/4 inch, because I want it to be here. So call it 1/2 inch, I guess. And then I'm going to move this from its kind of corner to here. And you always align text, and I always align it with the left side or the right side. Don't center it; it just doesn't look as good in the layout. I don't know. There's exceptions to that, but I just want to be clear with that. And then do the same for all the other drawings that you have. I would go ahead and just same on the other layout. Could even actually copy this with a base point, as we've done before. Let's say copy clipboard, copy with base point. Click on this, go to my layout, and paste it. Yeah, and that's actually not too bad. Just gives me. Remember, that's non-plotting, and you're gonna remove it anyway. So yeah, no worries. Okay, maybe I can just move this over. Just stretching it. Okay, you can go anywhere. Let's turn off the snap. Oop. Okay, and then once you've got this too, you can do the same thing. I could just say clipboard, copy with base point. Let's turn this on. base point, and then go to layout. You can say paste. If I could keep pasting it. Yes, I can. So, maybe that first one is A, B. The first one's A, second one's B. Third one is C. So that gives you, oops, I don't know what that's about. Must have changed my my grid scale. That's really weird. Let's see here. Okay, anyway, that's fine. So I've got that, and then what you can do, you can copy that label, and let's see here. What's the best way to do this? I think the best way to do it. So that one's at an angle. So I would actually take that one and rotate it here, and you're gonna want to rotate it. Stop snapping to everything. We're gonna rotate it 45 degrees. If I can get it to snap there. Okay, and then I would go ahead and offset, make a line, offset this, and snap it to it. I'm just gonna eyeball it. It's bad form. Oh, I guess I can kind of, yeah. So anyway, depending upon how you want to do it, you can do it underline with it, or you can do it inline with it, as long as you're consistent. As long as we understand that that's line C and that's line C. Some people also do they'll do a C and a C, or BB, and then they'll call the section CC or BBAA. You can also, if you wanted to, you can call it, you can capitalize and say section C if you'd like to. I try to go kind of minimal on these things, but it's up to you. So you could just I think if you've got poche and there's a cut line, then I think we can understand that that's one thing, and then there's another. So anyway, the other sections should be pretty easy to do. I would err on the side. Don't rotate the letter. So if you have a section that's going this way, keep it vertical. Don't rotate it 90 degrees. The only reason I would do this is just because it is an angle. I want to understand that. But otherwise, don't make people turn their heads around in crazy angles when they're looking at your drawings. Yeah, and these won't plot, so you can just whatever. You can keep them or you can get rid of them if you want to. But that's pretty much it. So then at this point, go ahead and export, your stuff. Plot it. That's not too bad. Again, if you wanted to, I guess you might make this red. Let this label stand. It's fine. But at least that, yeah, I think that gives you a good start. Again, your professor will tell you they want it centered or whatever. I prefer things to follow from like a grid. But your mileage may vary. Might have a conversation about it in class. Those things I don't think are really dogmatic conventions. But that should give you everything you need to do the assignment, the way I have it set up. Okay, see you guys in class. Let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.